welcome back to another episode of Healthy for My Purpose. We are absolutely ecstatic to have this guest with us today. We are going to be talking to the dynamic, the beautiful Gigi Jones, aka Gigi the Vegan. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. Gigi, let's just get to the heart of your story. I'm just going to really like get to the meat of it. Like we look at you today and we see just all of the amazing things that you're doing in the vegan community, the life that you're living in a holistic manner. But can you kind of take us back to Gigi Jones when you were not Gigi the Vegan, and give us a build up of how you got to where you are today and where you started?
Well, I am a parent of four sons. I have four sons, and before I became and created Gigi the Vegan, I was a big foodie. And what that means is that I love to eat. I'm originally from Arkansas, and so can you imagine, you're talking about pig feet and everything else, right? And as it relates to eating, escargot, the list kind of goes on. So technically, I was a big meat eater, and but what truly happened in my life, what truly changed my life, was being diagnosed with colon cancer. At that time, I was living what I thought was a healthy lifestyle, and that included a lot of meat, like I said. But of course, I would eat a little bit of salad here and there or whatever, but I had no idea what I was doing to my body was creating my body to become at a disease state. And after being diagnosed from, colon cancer and learning that food could be medicine, really changed my life dramatically. And of course, the stage name came from my son that said, you're no longer Gigi Jones, you're Gigi the Vegan, because not only did I change from what I ate, but I became more conscious about the animals, about the world that we live in, and about people. And I became so conscious about what I put on my body. I don't wear any leather, I don't do a lot of things that I used to do before. Mm-hmm. And that was a real awakening. And I feel as though I always tell people it's a huge connection to God. Yeah. I feel much more love. I feel I give more love. I am more happier than I ever been in my life. And I am grateful every day. And that wasn't me before. That other person was the stressed person and the money-making person and the cared only about myself. And currently what I'm doing right now is really for the people and not necessarily for me. And that's the real story.
Yeah, wow, that is amazing. So you mentioned that you were diagnosed with colon cancer, and that was where you kind of pivoted. Tell us a little more about that. Like, usually when somebody gets a diagnosis, it's almost like you're thinking, that's it. Like, how did you turn to food as medicine? Because a lot of times, people are chasing the latest medicine and things like that. How were you able to navigate that space for that?
So when I was first diagnosed, what happened was I had planned this trip to Switzerland, actually, because I wanted to go and have chocolates there. And I wanted to go and see the prettiness. Everyone talks about Switzerland, the grass and everything in the chocolates, and I wanted to experience this. And I was taking myself on this trip. And at that time we had, Obamacare. So I had an opportunity to get all checked up and checked out before I head out of town. I don't know what that connection was. And now I know why, And at that time, I decided to ask my doctor, which I think that's something that we all should do, because a lot of times our doctors do not suggest having a colonoscopy, right? And especially when you get 50, they say it is very important we get this by age 50, but I think now it's even younger, you know, because of our food system. But at any rate, I suggested that to him, and he said, yeah, I think that's a great idea, that you should do it. And who would have known that, you know, a few days later, the results came back the way that they did, which he called me over the phone. And the conversation was, you know, your results are back, and we really need to talk about how we're going to manage what's happening to you. And I said, well, what is happening to me? I thought I was healthy, you know. And he went on to describe what they found and where I was. He said, but I'm going to send you to a specialist, and I need you to see him ASAP. And at that time, I don't know, I just had an out of body moment. I wasn't me. I wasn't, you know, I felt it wasn't true. It wasn't real. You know, it wasn't real to me. I just felt that it wasn't. I still feel the way that I did when I first was diagnosed. I went to see the specialist, and as he's speaking, I'm sobbing, and he's telling me he's going to take, and that's when I think I had the connection when I went to see him, because at that time I could see everything, you know, on his wall, how he drew what he's going to do during the operation, right? And what he needed to do with my small intestines and the chemo that we were, you know, that I needed at the time. And if this doesn't work, then we're going to do this. And so I think with sobbing, and the fear steps in and said, oh my God, this is really happening to me. And cancer doesn't run in my family. High blood pressure and diabetes does, you know, and not cancer. And so it was also just surreal. I just felt that it was the end of my life, and what I was going to tell my sons and my grandchildren. And I'm one of those people that I really used to keep everything to myself, you know, stress and what I'm going through. I never shared it. I always held it in. And to actually have to share something like this, and I knew I had to, I couldn't run off and have surgery without them knowing. They were going to find out, where is she? What is she doing? And so, but I had to really sit with myself. And what that was like during that time it was painful. You know, it was painful. It was shameful, because I'm thinking colon cancer, you know, I think that's the worst area you can get. I don't know why that was a connection there, but I felt shame, and I felt regret, because thinking about all the harm that I was doing to my body that I didn't know I was creating, you know, and just the idea of having to have surgery just really, I was drained. I think I just hit rock bottom. And to hear the doctor before I left, I said, well, what can I do to get my body strong enough that I can possibly not have chemo, you know, and strengthen the body, no chemo, and I can actually get through and recover much faster. And when he said absolutely nothing, I felt, I don't know, it was something in my soul that said, there gotta be something that you can do, you know, absolutely nothing. So I decided to share the news with my family, called a meeting with my sons, and, you know, everyone just seeing fear in their eyes was just the most devastating, or should I say, depressed state that I ever felt in my life. I was helpless. I had no hope, and my future was dim. And I really wanted to live longer for my grandchildren, and thinking about them, and you know, getting married and enjoying life with them. And I think that diagnosis too kind of made me feel sick, you know, even though there was no symptoms. I had no symptoms that I can think of, but I feel like that diagnosis kind of put me in a state of fear and sadness that truly made me sick. So I decided to just talk to God, sit with God and pray as much as I could and to seek answers. So in doing that, I had to make my home as pure as possible, meaning that for a couple of days I had no visitors. I just had to sit with myself and God and ask questions like, you know, I felt that I was being forsaken, you know, that I felt that, you know, why is this happening to me? Out of all the people in the world, I've done this. I was a good person, and I tried my best to eat as great as I could. I didn't cause any harm to anyone else. And why this was happening to me, and it didn't run in my family. It was, you know, and I asked those questions, and the reason why I asked those questions because I needed answers on why this was happening. And I believe the third day in going through that process and sitting with God, that I was given the answer that I needed. And it was that that surgery wasn't the way.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we need to get in a place of just being with ourselves and being with God and allowing God to truly come through to give you the answer that you need. And I had faith and truly believed that that was that God spoke to me and said that this was not the way for me, that if I choose this way, that I would truly die from it.
Yeah.
But I had no way. What that means was there was no extra instructions on what to do.
Right.
So I started Googling things, and I found was very, very ridiculous, and I knew it wasn't true. And then I went back to bed the next day, saying, God, show me the way. This is, I don't know what to do. What do you want me to do? And then right after that, the China study appeared.
Oh, yeah.
And the China study kind of tells you that you can turn disease off and on by the choices that we make, and it's truly in food. And then I said, okay, this is it. However, they didn't suggest what foods I needed to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched it, I think, for 2 days straight, over and over, to make sure that I didn't miss anything. And then the second day that I watched it, Hippocrates Health Institute popped up, Brian Clemens.
Mm-hmm.
Hippocrates state that they help people help themselves. And they had a cancer program. And what Brian Clemens kind of talked about was allowing food to be your medicine, kind of the same way, similar to the China study. However, they help you do it. So what I decided to do at that time, I called Hippocrates Health Institute, kind of talked to them about what their program was really about. And Lord and behold, it was about sprouting. It was about raw foods, living foods. And I decided to go. And arriving there and seeing what I've never seen food, should I say real food like that before in my life.
Yeah.
And what I mean is, you know, broccoli sprouts, everything was sprouted. Beans was sprouted. Didn't know you can sprout beans. Didn't know you can sprout lentils. Everything sprouted and fresh. And anyway, I decided to opt out of surgery to go to Hippocrates so that I can, if I did decide to have surgery, that I'd be ready for it if I needed to. But after 3 weeks coming back, I stayed on the regimen, meaning living foods, no fruit, no smoothies, none of that, no sugar, absolutely in my body for 2 years. Went back, had another colonoscopy, and they couldn't believe that there was nothing there. The only thing that they still saw was, I guess that the surgeon had highlighted the colon where the cancer was formed. And that was it. I also decided to go see another specialist because I wanted a second opinion and it wasn't there. So they're saying, Gigi, well, you have to come back at least, twice a month to have a colonoscopy because it's here. We just don't know where it went. It probably, so they had all these different ways of trying to figure out what happened. And, but I tell you, I've gotten my life back. I'm much happier than I've ever been. And I am so grateful for and thankful for learning all that I did at Hippocrates Health Institute. And from there, I became an ambassador for them and worked with them and became certified in living foods. Went to New York and became a raw food chef and created this place here, Gigi's Vegan and Wellness Cafe. We're their only living foods restaurant here in Kansas City. And from there, I created Midwest Soul Veg Festival that bring people together, not just in Kansas City, but in Little Rock for education, and not just education, but true wellness. Because I believe that what happened to me and how I was able to release cancer from my body wasn't just from food, but also high doses of vitamin C and my mental state. If you believe that you can do something, then you can, especially if you have whatever your spiritual, I think that all of us have a connection to the spirit, and we all have I say a higher self, that higher self that truly connects to God, right? I believe that when we sit and we hear and we ask questions, those questions will be answered. And it's all about what you do when you receive your answers. And you cannot be fearful of what you receive back, especially when you ask for it. You should follow and not allow fear to stop you from following it. And I believe, because I'm no special than anyone else, I just decided to do something different because I believe that I was led by the Holy Spirit to do it. And being led that way, now I'm able to not only keep myself balanced and healthy, I'm also helping other people. I've created a program, 21 Detox program, that I've been doing for the last 7 years, that people have come off of, their medications from being diabetic and so on and so forth. I work with several physicians in the area and writing nutritional scripts for their patients, because now doctors are saying enough is enough. They are now saying, I can't have my patient coming back to me 2 and 3 times for the same. It has to be something else. Something's not working. And now they're knowing, okay, it has to be the diet.
Yeah.
It has to be the diet.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because a couple things. When you said early on, I thought I was eating a healthy diet. I think a lot of us who have been diagnosed with some kind of chronic disease, we're just like baffled when we hear the diagnosis. We think we're eating a healthy diet. And a lot of that, I think, comes from a little bit maybe of denial about, kind of what we're eating and not wanting to, really accept it. But I also think too, the government guidelines kind of confuses people. You think if you're getting in, 4 servings of vegetables and fruits a day, you're doing a good job. And the reality is, it's more like 9, 10, 11, even 12 servings of fruits and vegetables a day that, and then saying, okay, you can have this amount of, animal protein, they'll say lean towards, chicken or fish or whatever, or lean cuts of meat, beef. But the reality is there are so many substances in those products that create inflammation and change DNA to promote cancer growth in the body. But they never talk about that. It's always emphasizing the macronutrients in the foods, and not really those pro-inflammatory substances that that wreak havoc in our body. I think too that your point about when you were talking about coming back and just going like 2 years without eating certain foods like fruits even, can you elaborate in terms of like what that diet looked like when you decided to just for 2 years just eat a very strict kind of living food protocol? What all was involved with that, and why no fruit?
And I think for me, what happens is that even if you do, I know that you've created the Daniel fast and you support that. However, once you change your habits, then your body change along with you. And what that means is even your taste buds, when you're no longer eating sugar, regardless of what, people say, well, white sugar is bad, but this juicy apple or whatever it is isn't the same type of sugar. But back in my mom day, that wasn't the same type of sugar, but now it is. It's not the same. A lot of our fruits are, should I even go into all of that? What's happening with our food?
You're talking about like conventionally grown.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And the list kind of goes on. But what my diet truly looked like was a green juice in the morning, midday, maybe a salad with lots of sprouts. I have a dehydrator, so I would sprout like my legumes and my what was I doing? I would sprout my beans and different things like that. That was considered raw. You pick them, you soak them, you sprout them, and then they're easier not just to digest, but they're easy for you to form into different things. And so I could make veggie patties and place those in my dehydrator and just let them sit for a couple of hours or so. I used to make lasagna and place it in the sun, and that lasagna with spinach and different sauces that I would make, which it was delicious food, but it was just done a little bit different.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just all about salads,
Right.
Juices. It was plenty of avocados because of the fats that are associated with that, omegas. Our enzymes that we need to keep intact within our bodies, broccoli. I had a combination, the list kind of goes on. So what that means is I had a variety of food to eat, but I just refused to eat any type of fruits or any type of, I had no sugar in my diet.
Mm-hmm.
And now coming back, I do eat a little fruit to this, on a daily basis, but not as much. I eat them during season. Like, for instance, watermelon. Yeah, I came up for watermelon in July. That's the only time I would eat it. I won't eat it in any time, like December or January, February, March, April, May. I won't eat any of it. I mean, it's not like they don't have it here, but they do. But you want to eat foods that are in season, and those are that's what my diet was, consists of that. However, there's so many creative ways to eat different vegetables. Even if you a person that said, well, I don't want to have too much salt, but what type of vegetables? I mean, for me, my celery was my salt, you know. I would grind that up and turn it into powder, and I would use it on my food, you know, as well. So, and it was a salt-free and oil-free lifestyle. And so, usually my body at that time had gotten so used to not eating before 10 a.m., but I would have some water, you know, lemon or lime water, maybe some cayenne pepper, it depends on I would add to the water. And then I would probably have a green juice around 11, 12 o'clock. That'll be my lunch. And then my meals would go from there during the day. And then I would have tea in the mix of that, like a, you know, ginger root, you know, dandelion root, whatever it may be. And then, you know, also during that time, I would still get high doses of vitamin C intravenously. So, and we know that shrink tumors as well. And that was my entire lifestyle, and working out every day.
Did you feel better as a result? I mean, certainly it helped with the cancer, but I mean, it's kind of a layup question.
I tell you what, my granddaughters was just, you talking about jumping around with them, turning flips. I even forgot, I didn't even believe I could do it, hula hooping, because, you know, the lifestyle before, and then I get into just a burst of energy.
Yeah.
And I was just this energy ball, you know, being raw, you just full of energy, and I was full of light, and I was so grateful, you know, every day, just filled with life and love, and just being grateful for another day. It's just, even, you know, I'm talking like then, but I'm still saying that as far as now. You know, and some things, sometimes I go, oh God, how do I do all that? How can I do all of this?
Yeah.
You know, and it's, and you know, you just can't.
Yeah. Well, you know, and this is what we talk about. You know, you're operating at a very high frequency. I mean, you know, when did all this unfold with the colon cancer diagnosis? What year was that?
2015.
Yeah. So, you know, that was like 8 years ago then, about 8 years ago. Yeah. And so you're 8 years older, but your energy level is probably 20 years younger.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Because then I felt like I was an old lady. Now, you know, I was sluggish.
Yeah.
I had a lot of brain fog.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, my life wasn't where it is today. You know, a lot of things I thought I needed back then that I don't. You know, I needed a lot of makeup. I needed a lot of, you know, I just had a different lifestyle. So it was totally different. Yeah.
Well, you got that plant-based glow. That's for sure. I mean, when we came into your cafe, and we're so grateful you were there, because we did come back, by the way, and the guys were there. And so we missed you, because we brought our friend Demetria, who kind of introduced us to your cafe. She said, well, when you guys get to Kansas City, you know, she's like sending us the link. So we're so grateful that we were able to actually meet you in person. You're absolutely beautiful woman, you know, just your soul, just your physical appearance. Just
and both of you are too. It was wonderful meeting both of you. You know, full of love and life, right? Full of love and life. And what you're doing amazing work. You know, and I always say we're foot soldiers, right? That's what
that's so true. So true.
And it's so funny. When we were sitting in your cafe, you had a slogan that really connected with us, because one of the things we always, you know, say is that we need to be healthy for our purpose, for our divine purpose. And so we were sitting there and we saw a phrase that I kind of want you just to talk a little about, because I thought it was so powerful. You said, all food should have a purpose. And we love that, because I think a lot of times, let's face it, we're eating mindlessly, right? We're eating for, you know, like not even any purpose at all, just maybe just to fill a satisfaction or to fill some kind of void. And when you said all food should be eaten with a purpose, that really struck me. So can you just talk a little bit about that philosophy that you put on your stuff?
It took me back to when I really started thinking about that was my children when they were little, you know, they would scarf the food down their mouths and don't even think about the why they're eating it, and just to get their tummies big and full, right? Their tummies big and full. But for us and for now, the now which we're in, everything we do should have a purpose behind it. Even the food that we partake in it, take in. And that's why I know that when I prepare food, I want it to look a certain way for you, you know, because once that, I think the healing process starts with the first bite, right? And that's how I train my staff. The food should be made with a purpose. Okay, so what is the purpose? We had a staff meeting this morning. What's the purpose of this meal today? How are you going to create it? Well, my energy is flawless. Whoever partakes in this taco, wherever their body is in a that's off balance, it's going to create balance to the body. And those are words that we say before we create. And I say that to people as well, that everything that we put into our body and we eat or consume should have a purpose to it, right? And if we're diabetic, or if we have going through a divorce or whatever it is, what is the purpose of that meal that you're getting ready to partake in your body? What is it going to do for you? You know, how is it going to benefit you? And so with that, that's one of the reasons why I say that food should have a purpose, right? When you digest it. Because certain food that we eat cause, you know, some people have gut issues, right? And so if you eat that burger, what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. What's the purpose of that? But for you to get sick, that's your purpose. For you to walk out of here, wobble out of here, you know, out of someplace, not out of here, sorry, not out of Gigi, yeah. Someplace else.
Not out of your cafe.
And you still in pain. You know, so that served no purpose for you. It served zero purpose for you in your body. Mm-hmm. So so how do you create that day? Just like when we get up that day, you know, we talk about intentions, but intentions are great, but what is your purpose for that day? Mm-hmm. Right? I don't know. I love using purpose a lot. Yeah. You know, intentions could be the same, but I just think that we should have a purpose for our life that day. What is that purpose? What are you gonna, you know, when you eat that soup, what is that? What is that? Because we actually, I think that everything that we partake in, eat, surround ourselves with becomes us anyway. You know, you become that. You become that. Those soulful tacos y'all ate the other day when you.
Those were so good, and the kale, yeah,
and the kale, yeah, right.
Yeah, because your body's alive. Yeah, it's living, and so you had all this living food. It's like your body's like, "Woo, yay!" You know, yes. And that's what it does. So I hope I kind of answered that in a way where
you did. I want to pivot a little bit to talk about the Veg Fests that you're hosting, and just tell us a little more about both of them. Do you do this every year? Like, give us the rundown on the two Veg Fests.
So I believe when God said, you know, that you owe me one. Because I believe that, you know, I remember hearing it so well, is that, you know, once I help you to heal yourself, you have to go and tell everybody what I've done, right? So I was trying to do little mini workshops in our community, meaning the African American community at that time. Nobody really wanted to listen to what I had to say, but my other counterparts would show up, you know, tons, but I wouldn't see anyone that looked like me at my workshops. And I would go home and sob my eyes out, sobbing. And I'm like, God, you told me to do this and they're not showing up. And he was saying, I didn't tell you to do that. I told you to do something bigger than that, right? You're supposed to do something bigger than that. That's okay. But no, it's supposed to be bigger than that. And then all of a sudden, I heard about a veg fest in New York that I had went and I spoke at. They got a hold of me for me to speak at the veg fest. And I thought, veg fest, oh my gosh. And so I said, oh, is that it? Is that what you want me to create? Massive movement, right? We just start moving. And so we created Midwest Soul Vegfest. I did here in Kansas City, where we not only bring people together, but we bring people together on a platform of wellness. We make it fun and exciting. The message is there, the language is there for people of color to come and participate, as well as everybody is invited. So with that, we created what I call pockets, and these pockets are kids' corner, seniors' corner, and we have national speakers that come out and speak at the event. We have live music, great DJ, lots of vegan vendors. We have businesses that are vegan, but we've converted them into participating, and now they're making vegan food. And we have farmers to come out to demonstrate workshops. And this event is so, I believe Midwest Soul Vegfest is so awesome, because you do not leave, just going, oh, it's a great event, and then you go home, you don't know what to do. But we help and support you. We have surveys there. You take the information with you, and we support you even after VegFest. We make phone calls to see what you need, how we can support you with recipes, how you can move forth on this lifestyle. We even have sanctuaries come out with the piggies are running around, the chickens are running around. So it is wonderful, because we want people to see this is what we're eating, Look at it, it's alive just like you are. Because sometimes it's a disconnect. You go in a grocery store, it looks all pretty and neat, but you need to see it for yourself.
Yeah.
And so Little Rock Veg Fest, I decided Little Rock is my home. And I was hosting this wellness festival in Kansas City. And I was, people were like, well, why don't you do something in your own hometown? I'm like, you're right, let's go to Little Rock. So I don't know, we're just we're in Little Rock now. So yeah, we'll continue to grow. It is a movement, and we want people to stay well. And this is the way that we do it. And it's not just about food. Like I said, it's about the environment, it's about our spirit, it's about the soul, and it's all connected to it. Yeah. And this is how we get the information out to the masses. And I know that you're coming. Which one? Where are you speaking? Little Rock or Kansas City?
It's wherever you want us to speak, we'll come.
Yeah, I think Little Rock would be a great platform, because you have someone there already, and it'll be a great opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's our first one. And so far, we've had over 1,000 people to register for Little Rock.
Nice.
Yeah, Little Rock Veg Fest. And Little Rock Veg Fest is September 30th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And Midwest Soul Vegfest, that's held in Kansas City. This will be our 5th year, October 7th, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Swope Pavilion.
Okay.
Yeah, right here in Kansas City.
And we'll add the details to the show notes of both Veg Fest. So yeah. I know it's going to be an overwhelming success, and you're going to change many, many lives. Because I know when you start getting this information out, into the right hands, because a lot of times, I think with all three of us, when we had a health event, like, and something happened, that's when that change, you're more receptive to change versus, even though we talk about preventing all these diseases eating this way, sometimes it takes the event to make the pivot, because it's so ingrained that, they're going, there's a lot of people out there really struggling with different illnesses that this lifestyle can absolutely help. So I think it's a beautiful thing with what you're doing.
Thank you so much. And the majority of folks that do show up aren't vegan. They're curious and they're ready to take their life back. And last year I had a cardiologist that talked about, he's a cardiologist for over 40 years and said, he no longer want to do surgery anymore. He's saying people, this is the easiest disease to reverse, and this is how you can do it.
And it's the number one killer. Yeah.
Exactly. And the movement of him being there, because sometimes, we can say it all day long, right? They have to, some people are still, oh, well, the doctor don't say it's not true. It can't be done. But that's one of the reasons why I have the cutting edge doctors at every event, so people can see it is real. If an MD is saying this, and they change their lives because they know it's real, even for them and for their own health. And here we are.
Yeah. Well, even your own personal story. I mean, your doctor was like, oh, there's nothing that can be done. And then there you go. And now they're like looking for it, because they're like, what happened? Where'd it go? And so, but and Sersie and I have had several, MDs on our podcast, and they all say the same thing. You ask the question, how much nutrition education did you get in medical school? They said, hardly any. It was like they learned about, maybe like feeding tubes, if somebody gets shot and they're in the ER and they got to do a feeding tube, or the pyramid, before it was the my plate, then it was pyramid. So that's all they learn. They don't understand that food is medicine. Like a lot of them don't. I mean, thankfully there's organizations like American College of Lifestyle Medicine and the Plantrition Project that are changing that. But when you look at medical schools, even today, they just don't have that food is medicine curriculum built into their into the education for, training doctors, sadly. So your point about people listening to their doctors, you do have to listen to your doctor, but you also have to, it's kind of a trust but verify thing. And say, okay, you're saying there's no hope. What do you know about lifestyle medicine? What do you know is food is medicine? And so you got to kind of flip the script and ask them the question, make sure they're qualified to answer the question you had in the first place.
Because, they're still practicing medicine. And don't get me wrong, I love doctors. And I think you should go just to, figure out what's going on in your body. And then once it's up to you to make that choice. No one should have power over your body but yourself.
That's right.
We give up our power so much to doctors. We need to take our power back and say, thank you, doctor. So, and you can ask these questions, but still it's up to you. Even if you choose to have surgery, it's up to you. And if you don't choose, do what you want to do. You don't have to do anything. It's your choice. It's up to you.
And your story is also very powerful in another sense, that you talk to God about it. So you prayed on it, you talked to God, you meditated, listened to his voice. But what I love about it is you co-labored with him to make the change. Absolutely. And I think that's really important for people who are listening to this to understand that the prayer is so important, that talking to God is so important, but there's also a co-laboring. God wants you to do something. And you have to listen for that and follow that. And when you hear it, because I'm notorious, when God nudges me, I can be very disobedient, like when God was telling me to give up the coffee, I was like, well, but it makes me so productive in the morning.
I know it.
So, you have to really be honest with yourself when you are having that conversation with God and he's telling you to do something, that you are obedient in that, and that you're not just heavily weighed towards just constantly praying, but not necessarily doing the work.
For making the change. Yeah, because you made the change, you know. Sometimes we want the instant miracle, but God is like, I'm giving you the miracle. The miracle is for you to change. And that's the thing.
And it's a process, and people should know that, you know, I had to stay in it. I had to know that there was a rainbow at the end of that tunnel, you know, because that was that was a whole process of 2 years for me. And I didn't waver at all. I lost friends, you know, I lost loved ones, I lost family because they wanted me to have surgery and they didn't believe in my way. So I had to say, okay, you got to go because God told me something else. And I can't do it this way. This way is not going to work for me. Yeah. You know, and even having to go through this process with one of my sons that was so sad. We know they love us, but they don't understand. Some people don't understand the relationship that you have with God and what God said to you. He didn't deliver that to anybody else. He delivered it to you. So, you know, it's your choice. What are you going to do? Listen to him or listen to your friend? So I decided it was hard. Don't get me wrong. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but I believed and I had faith. And I did it.
Wow. Your story is an inspiration. It's a blessing. And I think people listening to this, Gigi, it's going to give them hope because I think there's so many people that are in the situation that you were at. And sometimes, like you said, fear takes over. And thank you for being a blessing. And thank you for answering the call to what God had for your life.
Thank you. Thank you for that.